I want to talk Tottenham for a minute before we go on to Liverpool and Chelsea in more detail. So they've £47.5 million today they have paid for Brennan Johnson. 47.5 million. And they've also just made a verbal offer of 40 million for Conor Gallagher. That has just gone into Chelsea. So today they're looking to spend 87 million pound on Gallagher and Brennan Johnson. Talk to me.
Tottenham Hotspur might be the dumbest football club in this entire league. I'm going to be just completely honest with you. Honestly, bro, like this 47 million for Brennan Johnson. It's just, I'm going to be honest, I just don't know what to say. Like, I genuinely just don't know what to say. When I saw that earlier on, I'm like, did they just actually pay 47 million for this guy? 47 million. 47 million. That's insane. That's generally insane numbers to me. And the Gallagher thing doesn't make sense either. Look, is Gallagher maybe over-attacked by Chelsea fans? Yes, but that's because Chelsea fans are spoiled brats who just have no patience. So maybe he's over-attacked, but Conor Gallagher ain't really worth 40 million, to be honest with you. I don't think Gallagher offers something special like that. He's an all-rounder. He can do multiple things at an okay level, so he can pass good, he can shoot good, he can, cross good, whatever, and he has high work rate and stuff. So, like, he's an all-rounder a little bit. But for me, I just don't see the direction Spurs are headed in. And I know everyone's happy about Ange Postecoglou, and this is why I told you, Terry, I'm never doing Spurs hype ever again my whole life. I'm never, ever going to do Spurs hype. Never. Because people started to fall for it after Ange's last game. After they beat Bournemouth, it was like, oh, Spurs have 7 points from their first 3 games. Oh, Spurs are amazing. And then, boom, they end up losing to Fulham in the Carabao Cup. So it's just Spurs being Spurs. So for me, if after Mourinho and Conte, you can't do nothing, I'm never going to back you again. With Brennan Johnson, is it a smart signing? No, it's not a smart signing. There's absolutely nothing smart about the signing. Not the price tag, not the player. Brennan Johnson is one of these players that these based on ability merchants wanks off to just based on ability. Brennan Johnson, and he just looks nice and he's technical and he dribbles nice and shit. Can he do anything in the final third? No. I think he only got like 11 GA, I swear, like last season. So like, listen, GA matters. GA matters, people. Yeah. I promise you, GA matters. So for me, with Brennan Johnson, nothing special with that player. Gallagher doesn't move the needle for them. And as predicted, Tottenham Hotspur have spent the Kane money all wrong. Well done, Tottenham Hotspur. You've Spurs it up again. That's all I've got for Spurs, man. What a shit club as well. Well, like, how do you lose to Fulham in the Carabao Cup?
Well, we'll come to that in a minute. £47 million for Brennan Johnson.
47.
It's interesting, really, because I think there's definitely question marks over Man United spending £55 million on Mount. There's definitely question marks on Arsenal spending £60 million on Kai Havertz. But I think both Kai Havertz and Mason Mount are better football players than Brennan Johnson. As bad as people think they are, they're better than Brennan Johnson. And if a Brendan Johnson level player is now £47 million, if a Conor Gallagher level player is 40 million, if that's what they go for, then it kind of makes you look at deals for like Rice at 100 million. And you think to yourself, that's really
bargain.
Good value
That's
for money.
You think bargain.
And this is why, like, when people have been saying recently, like, £100 million on these midfielders is crazy. It isn't when you consider that a bang average forward. In fact, Spurs have done this twice now. They've bought 2 bang average forwards for a combined total of about £110 million in Richarlison and Brennan Johnson. So if bang average players now are going for nearly 50 million, I don't think 55 million for Mount is a bad deal at all, because he's much better than he is and will prove that at Man United. I still don't think he's world class, but he's better than that. It also makes the Rice deal look a snip. Man United, honestly, I'm telling you this now, in not just 2-3 years, by the end of this season, you're going to look back at 64 million for Rasmus Højlund and go, well worth it. Because he is, in my opinion, is light years better than Brendan Johnson in every category. Even speed, Højlund's quicker. So that's why I said to people, 64 million, it's a lot of money. It isn't. It isn't when you consider 50 million gets you Brendan Johnson.
And there's no need to like go
ridiculous.
off theory. We just watched Johnson against Man United. We just watched him like 5-6 days ago. Why like there's no need to be edgy. Like, okay, he can beat the fullback, but you know what separates the elite wingers from the regular ass wingers? How many wingers in the world could beat their fullback? Like 90% of them could beat their fullback. 80% could beat the fullback. That's why they're wingers. Can they do anything after they beat their fullback? That's what separates them. So listen, with Johnson, he's just, you know, quick, looks nice on the eye, and that's it. But I'm so happy Terry mentioned the Richarlison thing, because Tottenham Hotspur have spent 110 million on garbage essentially going forward. And this is where we have to give credit to smart football clubs. Manchester City, you already know, are a fake, plastic, scummy club, but they do make right decisions in the transfer market. Spurs could have 100% used that money 100 times smartly. And this is what pisses me off with Spurs. Spurs will make a very smart decision, Madden. Extremely smart decision for cheap money. Get their value, get their worth of money and everything. And then literally in the same summer, mistake. Just like that. And it just makes no sense. Have they not paid more for Brennan Johnson than they did for James Maddison? And how's that logical? I swear they paid 40 for Maddison, right?
Yeah, and obviously Maddison was easier to get because the team had been relegated, and it does make players cheaper. So I think you have to factor that in. But again, you have to look at it for the value. And look, I was looking here, right? Last season, played 14 games as a centre forward, 11 games as a right winger, 13 games as an attacking midfield player. So he's a forward. And which is why, listen, I think as an attacking midfield player, I think Mount is superior to him. Genuinely believe that. So 55. And
I'm not for Johnson or Mount.
No, that's for Johnson. What I'm saying is that this guy isn't an out-and-out striker. He can play attacking midfield. He can play on the right as well. I'm not even happy with the Mount deal, but it makes it's about telling people you've got to understand what money gets you nowadays. £50 million basically gets you Brennan Johnson, who in my opinion is bang average. So I think when you think how much Mason Mount costs, it must be that's too much money. Is it for buying a Premier League player? No. Whether or not he delivers to Man United is another thing. Equally, when it comes to now these 100 million, that's why Rice is 100 million. He has to be if Brennan Johnson is 50 million, because he's twice the player. It's why Mo Salah is worth 200 million pound, because he's that much better. So yeah, football is changing financially, but I just think, again, I do think they could have gone out there, because there was a lad they were linked to, who I want to say he's from Belgium.
Why are they this desperate to sign a forward anyway? Why do they think it's this important to spend 47 million on a winger now to begin with? Why?
Do you know what's crazy? With what they got for Harry Kane, genuinely, Vlahovic, in my opinion, better option, as an example. You've got, they might not sell him, but go and try and, Ollie Watkins, much better player. Go and try and buy him. There are players out there, and look, they might not be able to sign everybody, but there are better attackers out there across Europe, better strikers out there across Europe than Brennan Johnson. It's an absolute madness to me. Listen, I get why they let Harry Kane go, but it's a shocking piece of business. 40 million for Conor Gallagher. Again, I think that's a fair price. I think Gallagher, I know Poch is, listen, me and Lee Gunner got into a big fight about this the other day. Poch is talking him up. We love him. He's been great. He's been amazing. I swear he said that about Maatsen the other day, and they're willing to sell him. Of course, Poch is not going to say, yeah, Gallagher's bang average, because you're going to lower his price and you want to sell for as much money as possible so you can spend more money later on down the line. But again, I know Chelsea fans won't all like hearing this, but for me, when it comes to Conor Gallagher, and I said this to them about Loftus-Cheek, and I said this to them about Hudson-Odoi, not good enough to make you Premier League champions again. 40 million pounds for a good Premier League player is decent money. So they could raise 70 odd million today, Chelsea, through selling Maatsen and Conor Gallagher. Chalobah's also wanted by Bayern Munich. So again, you might be able to raise 30 odd million for him. They could raise 100 million pounds today, Chelsea.
I think Chalobah's a mistake, by the way. I think letting go of Chalobah's a mistake.
Really?
I genuinely think Chalobah could be a... Listen, people who have spoken to me, even people who have came on the terrace before, we've spoken about this probably from 2 years ago. When they were hyping up all these youngsters, I said, I see something in Chalobah. I think Chalobah's a good defender, you know? Genuinely. I actually genuinely believe he's a good defender. And I think he could be a defender that ends up lifting a major trophy. The others, I agree with you completely on. I think Chalobah is better than Disasi, who they bought. Genuinely. I'm saying this with no agenda. Everyone knows, listen, it's F Chelsea settings for me. So I'm not going to do any Chelsea prop for no reason. But I think Chalobah has something. I don't think Chalobah's done or dead or crap like people make out. I personally, I mean, maybe even my fan base would disagree with him, but I would take Chalobah at Liverpool as well. I genuinely would. I think he definitely could be an option, because you look at him from a defensive perspective, he's very good defensively. I just don't see it why we act like Chalobah is just crap. It's funny to see in the comments all these City fans getting rattled. Your club is plastic. Why are you angry at facts? You brought your biggest rep on the straight facts, and he still couldn't handle the facts. So where do we go from here? All these City fans always try. Your club is plastic. It's fake. Own it. It could have been anyone else. You won the jackpot. What if Newcastle won the jackpot? I mean, they have now. What if Everton won the jackpot or someone else back in the day? Your club was nobody before the jackpot. Out of your major trophies, there's 7 championship trophies. You know this? Go learn your history, bro. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just had to respond to that. These City fans always mad. What are you mad for? This is why the City fan base is genuinely the most insecure fan base in the whole league in terms of insecurity, highest levels of insecurity, because they know the reality of their football club. Fake, plastic, not real, could have been anyone else. So it means nothing. That's why with your success, no one gives a fuck. Next day, we said, haha, Arsenal, you bottled it. No one said anything to City. No one gives a fuck. Shit club.
Yeah, it's interesting. Look, I think about Chalobah, again, I don't think he's good enough, but I understand what you mean. And when I say good enough, I mean to move Chelsea to another level. I think that I've got really high standards for young players from academies. As a Man United fan, we have one of the greatest academies, like historically, one of the greatest academies ever, with the Busby Babes and the Fergie's Fledglings, and we produce good players. And other teams have got really good ones now as well. I love an academy player. I think we've had, I don't even know the amount of years. I think it's 70, 80 years on the bounce. We've had an academy player in every match day team for 70, 80 years. I love it. But you've got to have the standards high. And it's one thing Ten Hag's doing that I like. Man United fans are always, this kid's a baller, he's got to play. And then he gets sold and everyone's like, it's a massive mistake, and he does nothing. It's kind of weird. You can tell almost instantly if a player is going to be good enough to move the needle for your team as a youngster. Almost.
Don't you think he's better than Disasi, though?
No, look, Disasi, he's come to England. He's made it. Again, my view is no. I haven't seen enough of Disasi. But the reason I look at it and go, if he was, Chelsea just wouldn't have bought Disasi. If that makes it. I think the same thing about Tomori. As good as he's been over there in Italy, it's over there in Italy. And listen, Chris Smalling is one of the best centre-backs in that league. Was he one of the best centre-backs in this league? He just wasn't.
No, he wasn't.
And it doesn't mean Tomori is bad. Maybe his game is more suited to things over there. The fact is, just look at Bayern Munich. They were looking at McTominay's and Chalobah's and Eric Dyer's because they believe they're good enough to help them win the Bundesliga. That tells you the level and standard of that league is below the Premier League overall, because no City wouldn't be looking to buy those players to strengthen up their defense. And that's kind of what you've got to look at and aim for is, would my rivals want a play? Generally, sometimes you get an obscure deal. But if you look at a lot of the players we've all, and man, the Ten Hag talent ID thing's interesting because there's so much overlap. The only fan base that don't attack us for it is your fan base, because there's such an overlap in terms of players both our clubs have looked at or wanted or gone for in the last year. Yeah, Gakpo, Nunes, Mount, Amrabat, Gravenberch, McAllister. There's a great overlap. So that's why most Liverpool fans don't join in.
I think you can argue both managers have bad talent ID if you want to make that argument. Klopp and Ten Hag. But you can't say one has good and one has bad.
So yeah. If you're gonna say one's got bad, you've got to say both. You can't. Yeah. No, that's fair. And I don't think either do have bad talent ID. It's just the one thing with Ten Hag that's interesting. He is going for a lot of players he's managed before or wanted before, but then at the same time, I saw some Dutch guy. There's a clip of him online. I don't even know who he is, but he said that the thing for Ten Hag is because of where he was managing these players before, he was never able to hold on to them. So for him, it's a case of, and you could argue this, if Ajax would have kept all their players together from 4 or 5 years ago and developed that team, how good could they have become? So there might be an element of a manager that's had those players that thinks, I want to try and bring some of those guys back because there just wasn't the money at Ajax to build the squad I wanted consistently enough. So I think there's an element of that in there as well. But look, some managers are successful doing it. Some do it a different way. It is what it is. But But yeah, it's
Some
an
decisions
interesting
though
one.
will bite you. Like the Anthony decision might bite him. The Mount decision might bite him. So these are decisions we will see what happens. But
You know what's
we'll
interesting?
see this season
Do
anyway.
you
We'll
know what's
see this season.
crazy? Anthony versus Nottingham Forest was pretty good, but he did it once in the game where he went on the outside and cut it back when he scored. And it's like, I know you have the ability to do it. I actually think he has the pace to do it. He just chooses not to. That's the infuriating bit. And I think Rio Ferdinand made a great point. He basically said, man's got to go gym and put some muscle on. He's just a little bit too weak for the Premier League. He needs more power. And again, it shouldn't be that difficult to go in the gym and just lift some heavier weights for 3 months, right? And I'm boiling it down basically, and you'll just become more powerful. Now, you'll have personal trainers that'll teach you how to do it properly, but anybody can add power to themselves. Any athlete can do that. What's up? What's up?
Nothing. I'm just flexing my traps.
Sorry. I thought so. Oh, you know, I thought some news broke. I thought some news broke. Well, oh, what's happened? What's happened?